Hi, time for myth number 3 in this series of blasting the myths of anger management. Today I want to talk about the myth that only men have problems with their anger. It is true that if we're talking about percentages here, maybe 60 to 70% of the participants in my courses are male. By the way, from a range of ages, anything from 17 to 66, I think, in the last couple of years. But every course has probably 30 to 40% women attending. And this is true across the network of clinics run by the British Association of Anger Management. So how do women do anger? Well, they often do it in much the same way as men do. They get aggressive, they explode, they find it difficult to express their emotions in any other way. But they also do something that men do too, which is that they suppress their anger. And I haven't talked about that too much yet, but you may find that actually what you're doing is in an attempt to do what is culturally accepted as a woman, which is to not use aggression and not use aggressive language, that you actually suppress that anger or turn it into, express it as sadness or maybe hurt. There is a lot of evidence that depression is related to a lot of anger turned inwards, and I meet quite a few women who come on our courses who have not felt that it was acceptable to do anger. So, you're not alone. Thank you.